So this particular teaching appears in many teachings, but in this format that I will present it now, it's came in the what's called the fourth way tradition, which is ancient but appeared in the West in late 1800s through some Russian mystics, teachers called Gurdjieff, George Gurdjieff, and Peter Uspensky. And so the idea is that unlike other creatures on this planet, like giraffes and fish and deer and dogs and stuff, we are born here, and somehow nature brings us to some level of development, you know, like the body grows and we become adults. But then somehow we are not, as humans, we are not brought to our full potential. Nature doesn't bring us to a full maximum, full potential of what we are as a human being. I mean, as different as how it is like a dog, or you know, like a Doberman or a deer or a bobcat. It kind of becomes the ultimate bobcat it can be. No hang-ups, no hesitation. It's just reached its full potential, like an acorn reaches a oak tree. This evolution with all other creatures here happens automatically, mechanically. With human beings, it doesn't work like that. We are left kind of halfway or third of the way, and and here we are left to be as we are, or to continue to devolve, to go down, or if we want to evolve or grow spiritually from the consciousness point of view, we need to engage in some type of conscious effort, conscious application, without which we remain as we are. And in this teachings, they were saying that actually man as we know it and everybody that we encounter, we are basically asleep from the point of view of consciousness and from the point of view of our potential, more like a walking sleep, like a zombie in some way, a very highly functioning, active zombie. And this teaching described that basically a man, human being, has, from the point of view of consciousness, there are four states of consciousness that are available to man. The first, this is all very applicable to us, you know. The first state of consciousness is the state when we are sleeping in the night, and basically it's a state where we are not aware of what's happening with our inner world. We are not aware of the external world, and actually there's all these dreams that they feel they're real, or deep sleep. So it's somehow our spirit or consciousness is unhooked from the mind and the feelings and the body, and it's kind of, that's a state of sleeping in the night. In this pathway, we don't work so much, we don't try to work with that. There are other pathways that I respect, where they are trying to kind of work something with the dreams and all of that. It's not what we're doing here. Now, this is called the first state. Now when we wake up, something changes. There's this onness happening, and we are getting into a second state of consciousness, second state, where basically it's the normal state that we all know, and all the humanity is in it. And we usually call that, okay, now I'm awake, I'm conscious, I'm awake. And from the point of view of the previous state, there's definitely we have much more ability to discern what's real, what's not real, to some degree, and there's ability to do, and we can have families and have jobs and people, you know, all activities. from politics, parliament, it's parliament here in America, but governing, work, factory, committing crimes, making babies, making money, falling in love, even, inventing something nice or creating works of art. All these are happening in the second state, which are to normal men without spiritual work. This seems like normal. This is like the normal state where we are awake. Um, as compared to other possible states that are available to man, second state actually is like a waking sleep. Um, the characteristic of this second state, which is our man's normal state, is pretty bad actually. And the characteristic is that we are all the time basically the mind is continually busy, and it is all the time bringing thoughts of the past and the future and rehashing and worrying, and all the time somehow we are not there, we are not here. There's all the time some kind of half here, half somewhere else. All the time, all the time, a lot of the time is spent in this daydreaming, in fantasizing, and often it's not pleasant. It's more like worrying about what other people think about me, what kind of impression I make, what's going to happen tomorrow, regretting the past. It's all the time. We are lost in thoughts, basically. And then in that state, we believe that our thoughts are me. So we are identified with each thought that comes. Each thought is like me. And then the thoughts, they are all different and contradictory. Another aspect of this so-called normal state, second state, is that we are also identified with everything, meaning that we are identified with the thoughts, we are identified with our feelings. If there's some anger, irritation, frustration, sadness, loneliness, stress, I am it. Our consciousness is stuck to it, and it feels like anger is me, frustration is me, stress is me. And also often the emotional function is full of negative emotions and resentment, judgments, taking things personally, making assumptions, trying to control, trying to get appreciation, get approval, get recognition, get safety, get love. Also, there's all this due to various conditions, to the state, the fact that our parents were asleep and society is asleep, and our parents did the best they could, but they were not able to love us and be present to us unconditionally. We also develop wounds and beliefs like, so in the second state, we are identified with the deficiency story. It's a concept of some negative core beliefs. I'm unworthy, unlovable, there's something wrong with me, I'll never make it. Some kind of bad story about me with thoughts and feelings. The second state also, there is lying, lying to others and lying to ourselves, a lot of inner contradictions. There's like exaggeration, talking about things we don't know as if we know. Somebody else is responsible for my feelings. I feel like this because this motherfucker did that, and because of the government, or because of this. Basically, I'm a victim. And also, all these patterns of adaptation, that we developed, they are fully in charge. Like, when I'm in a relationship, I'm anxious, anxious attachment, or am I fat? Is she love me? Is she going to cheat on me? All this. Or avoidant pattern, like, I like you, but it's too close, I need space, fear of intimacy, addictions in this approach are not sinful or bad. It's just um, some justified attempts to alleviate some unpleasant state. I don't like how I feel right now. It feels like yucky. I feel I'm bad. I feel something's missing or something feels bad. And then I go into some compulsive thing like drinking, smoking, chocolate, porn, Netflix, heroin, whatever, seeking love, in order to change that state. Um, so, okay, so this is the second state, and this is what our parents are in, and the politicians are in, and it's not a moral thing. In the second state, you can have people from like a serial killer or like crooks to like very honorable, good family men, but still lost in thought, lost in feelings, lost in the past and the future. So it's like a state of being, state of consciousness. So that's where we all start. And in this state, we have some illusions that about ourselves, the illusion that I can do, that I'm the doer, and I'm doing stuff. When in actuality, don't believe me, but let's be open. These things are happening. There are factors, myriad factors of conditions and all kind of stuff that basically things are happening according to some patterns, and it's happening. Things are happening. And another illusion is that we have a will, and but actually in reality we have many wills. Like one part wants this, another parts want something else, and another parts want something else. Which like Jesus when talks about man's name is Legion, that's like that. All the many thoughts, they are all of them different and many personalities. I'm like the nice guy here, I'm professional here, I'm like abusive here, I'm lonely and whatever. They all pop up, different sub-personalities that all take over for a short amount of time, and they decide, and then zoop, another one comes and there's something else. So another illusion is that the illusion of that there's one I, let's say, there's just one, there's unity, yeah, illusion of unity. Just this is an illusion based on the fact that there's just one body, and then the body has this name. But actually, there are many, as I said, many sub-personalities different from each other, fighting with each other, and all that. So that's pretty bad, but part of the work is to realize that, and then we have a possibility to change that. Okay, so this was first state. This is the second state. Now, third state. The third state basically doesn't happen by itself. It's not like given like dogs. It is because in the second state we are, as compared to our potential as a human being, we are functioning under norm, and so the third state, they call it, I mean, of course they put names so we understand and all that, but it's not about names and stuff. The third state is the state in which we are conscious of ourselves. We are aware of ourselves, and then we know who we are. There's a sense of knowing who one is beyond oneself as an ego, or beyond knowing oneself as the body. It's a state of being. In the third state, basically, of consciousness, there is this natural ability to be where we are, not to be checked out. The mind is actually much more quiet, and then we are like a conscious cat. You know, we are like enjoying the cup of tea. We are present. We are not in the past, in the future, and we are somehow there's this quality of we are aware of all these operations that usually are subconscious or unconscious. We are aware of thoughts. We are aware of feelings. We are aware of urges, and we are not. They are not taking us. They are not. They are not. We are not fucked by our mind and our feelings. So it's the state of being conscious of oneself and the truth about oneself. Um, Also, in the third state, um, there is could be that there's more like because we are less checked out and there's less static. Actually, we are able much more to appreciate beauty, and to the impressions, the perceptions are much more vivid, and the mind is more quiet. I mentioned, um, and we are no longer taken by every inner passerby that comes along, you know. So there's this state of presence somehow more there, you know, which actually this presence is our God-given gift, you know, being conscious instead of being asleep. Um, Even without work, without spiritual work or consciousness work or stuff, everybody, we all had moments of this third state. Happens kind of mechanically without working for it. This happens usually when there is a shock, when, let's say, there is either something very unpleasant happens, and you know, or an accident, or either some moments of great beauty. You know, you go somewhere to the Grand Canyon, and then there's an accident, an illness, great surprise, great beauty, great shocking something unexpected happens. So what happens without realizing it, uh, we are our we are the static is blown away for a little bit, and we are like present. We're like, wow, it's so beautiful. Or suddenly, even if the nasty events happening, we are suddenly, you know, like you have an accident or something cuts you, are suddenly very vividly aware, which is, and then this lasts for a little bit, and then we go back down to the normal state. And the quality of this third state is that there is much more imprint. We can have more memory. So usually the things we remember from childhood or in our life that are more vividly imprinted is that without knowing, our consciousness was like much more present due to the circumstances. And so we remember things that when there's memory, strong memory, that's associated with we're in a higher state of consciousness without even knowing. Also, all these states, they say that actually it's not clear cut. It's not like it's like they have degrees. So even in the second state, the state of sleep, there are different degrees from being totally sucked into some misery and all that to being kind of okay. And the third state of self-consciousness, it has degrees too, and they fluctuate throughout the day, you know. And that's why, you know, sometimes some of us, we have some meditation experience, and we, after some time of meditating, we kind of, it's different, something is different. Or after meditation is something different, then we will get sucked back into a normal condition. So from one angle, what we are trying to do here, I mean, not from one angle, what we are trying to do here is to kind of start to go towards the third state. And all these practices I'm doing here, they meant to kind of jumpstart our soul to kind of become more vibrant, more conscious. And in this process, we are diminishing suffering. I mean, the suffering we have is not because we are bad or unworthy, is that because of we are asleep in the washing machine of our own subconscious creation. At the beginning, we make attempts to do this, especially for people who are coming here for some more, you have experience like you apply these things and it's like different. It feels more clear, more spacious, mind slows down. We are less sucked into some toxic feeling that we sucked on our life. So somehow with some degree of freedom, you know. And it has degrees, and then we lose it, and then we remember, and then it's keep coming back and forth. That's natural. Okay, so then there is a fourth state. In these teachings, they were not even wanting to talk much about the fourth state because they were saying that this is so far from where we are that talking about it doesn't really fucking help. It's just more like imagination and all that. But basically, fourth state is, it builds on the third state. So when there's more ongoing kind of presence, at some point, the fourth state is somehow theoretically is that we are not only aware of ourselves, but somehow we are aware of the truth about all that is, about the laws of the universe, about how it works. And then I guess another way to put it is that we are kind of realizing that there's no more feeling of separation. No more feeling of separation. In the second state, and even in the third state to some degree, there's this feeling of I am me inside the body, I am the body, or I am me, and then everything else is not me, and I'm basically alone in the world and separate from others, separate from God, from the universe, where I'm like my own little wave here, separate individual wave. In the fourth state, or in the high levels of third state, this starts to be seen as illusory, and we start to have a sense of feeling of not feeling separate, feeling somehow that what we are is consciousness, and this consciousness is not personal, is not limited by the body, and that everything is consciousness. So when they talk in New Agey thing, like the feeling of oneness and one with all, or you read some very, in spiritual literature, also all the masters and all that, they often speak about the fourth state, they don't speak about third state. So these very transcendental experiences and stuff like that. Anyway, it's just for the sake of the presentation, I wanted to talk about it, but it's not, it's more practical for us to focus of making the shift from the second to the third state and keep going there. So the main, our suffering and our addiction and our problems with others and family and with whatever injustice, unfairness, unworthiness, all these are due to us not being conscious enough. And then the more we start to awaken and be more present, a lot of these problems we have will diminish by themselves. Some of them will persist because we practice them a lot. So they need more, they need to run their course, and we need to dismantle them and do kind of work. But the most important practice is the one that I mentioned at the beginning. This practice of, in the fourth way, they called it, and I like this term, they called it self-remembering. Self-remembering. And depending of our spiritual understanding and where we are, this self-remembering takes different forms. But straight off the bat, self-remembering is anything to do with when we catch ourselves somewhere else to bring ourselves into the present moment, to stay in the present moment, to keep coming to it. And this is not automatic. We are automatically not in the present moment. So to keep coming back and to have our attention in the here and now and start to observe this phenomena. In the second state, we are the phenomena. These are all the thoughts and feelings and reactions, we are them. So to start to observe the phenomena, the reactions, the judgment, the gossip, to observe without judging it, more like this witnessing, anything to do with witnessing, being present. This is still really not true self-remembering because we still don't know what the self is. We think that the self is Joe and Mihai, but anyway, this mindfulness, it is very helpful, without which nothing happens. We are fucked in the washing machine. Other stuff connected to self-remembering is we'll do here, or especially in other module, this self-inquiry or kind of practices to explore what is it that I really am? What is the nature of awareness? What is this? And then tuning into the sense of being, basically becoming aware of our own being, not only of thoughts or feelings, but being aware of being aware. Anyway, it's ever deepening. Yeah, I think that's some kind of map that I haven't mentioned about this, but I like this map from the fourth way. And I think we can all, especially the people who are coming here for some time, you can identify, you can see, how we fluctuate between the states. Sometimes, actually, it's worth to be said, some drugs, they temporarily induce a higher state of consciousness, even can invoke, can induce a fourth state of consciousness where we suddenly, a lot of shit that we have, it's this disabled, and then our consciousness is like jump started by the substance, and we are temporarily seeing the truth about ourselves, seeing all the lies, having deep insights, having understanding deeply, having big ahas, or even having experiences, mystical experience of like, oh my God, it's all alive, it's all fucking, is God everywhere, I am God, So that's what's happening actually in some, especially psychedelic substances. However, because it's on a credit card. We didn't earn it. They can be like you get a sample, a free hit of some what's possible spiritually. However, we come back. We come back to a normal state, and then we even forget, especially if we have more like fourth state. This is so far than where we are that when we come back, we can forget everything about it. In some traditions, shamanic or Kant traditions, they use some of these for the aspirants to kind of open some doors for a little bit, but in the context of ongoing sober exploration. Yeah. But through this, applying these teachings, actually we can experience it, we can naturally experience some of the state of being that we have in having some drugs. And actually, we can experience this much better than some of those drugs. You know what I mean? And another thing I forgot to mention, I'm going to stop here with this.